In this sense, Iran's leaders have a choice between two paths. If they cannot agree to a reasonable deal, they will keep Iran on the path it's on today, a path that has isolated Iran and the Iranian people from so much of the world, caused so much hardship for Iranian families, and deprived so many young Iranians the jobs and opportunities they deserve. On the other hand, if Iran's leaders can agree to a reasonable deal, it can lead to a better path, the path of greater opportunities for the Iranian people.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, again, I'm trying not to, go crazy or get sick or panic, and it's just insane. What we're hearing here is insanity from a man who, I don't know, how could you be? I mean, he's giving a Nowruz or whatever it's called greeting to the Iranian people. It's a holiday they celebrate, a Persian holiday, and he's telling Iran, all you got to do is sign on this deal, which, as I mentioned, is they get to keep 60% of their nuclear program, 6,000 centrifuges. We lift the embargo on lift the sanctions and lift the embargo on conventional weapons. Why wouldn't they sign the deal? And then you could just join the community of nations while you can continue to support and commit terror, continue to kill Americans with IEDs, continue to overthrow governments. This is insanity. Right, Heather Hansen, trial attorney, and Roger Hedgecock, host of the syndicated radio show, The Roger Hedgecock Show. Let's start with Heather. I mean, I just can't even wrap my head around this.
It is incomprehensible. I mean, when you hear General Petraeus today in the Washington Post saying that Iran is our most dangerous foe, it's worse than ISIS, it's the basis of much of what we're fighting. And then to see that our president is going on television and sort of telling poems to the Iranian
yeah, he
people,
quoted a poet, I know.
as opposed to really addressing the issues that we have here. It is scary and it's disturbing, and it's all the more reason that we need to get Congress involved.
Roger, he makes Chamberlain look like Churchill.
Well, I must say this is insanity, and particularly because if you look at it through the eyes of a professor in an academic setting, appealing to the reasonableness of the other side makes sense. When you're talking to Iranians who believe the end of the world is coming, they're going to complete it, they're going to be the messengers of Allah, they're going to have the entire world submit to Islam. This academic exercise is insanity when you consider where they're really coming from. And the Iranians today, in this negotiation with John Kerry, said, okay, we'll accept everything you want to give us, but you know what? You have to lift those sanctions right now. You can't wait. I mean, there's no waiting on that. We want it right now, even though we promise later we might live up to the rest of the agreement. Isn't our experience with Putin rejecting all the post-Cold War agreements enough today with the deal of trying to make a deal with dictators?
All right, well, we've established the insanity of all of this. But when you add to it what's going on between Obama and this administration and Israel, I mean, hey, good people of Iran, we want to come join us, just sign this agreement. And as I said, you can keep doing all the other things you're doing, including threatening us, including threatening Israel. Just sign this agreement and we'll welcome you. Israel, we don't like the way you campaigned. We don't like what you said about Arabs. We don't like, I mean, Heather, help me.
Well, it's, Ernest was speaking for the president the other day and said words have consequences when it comes to Netanyahu, and that's all well and good, but actions should have consequences as well. And when you've got Iran blowing up mock battleships from the U.S., and you've got them testing their nuclear weapons and saying it was a low-level employee and it must have been a mistake, I mean, actions should have consequences far greater than simple words, especially when the words have a reason behind them.
Roger, Steve Emerson wrote a piece today, and we could pull out a zillion examples, you and I, of a monument that was unveiled in Ramallah to a homicide bomber from the 60s or 70s that killed about 50 Israelis, and this is the Palestinian Authority. So they unveil monuments to the killers of Jews in acts of terror. Obama doesn't care, but Netanyahu said busing in Arabs, and all hell breaks loose.
No question about it. This president has switched sides. He's now an ally and wants to be an ally of Iran and an enemy of Israel. He's already threatened them with going to the United Nations to get a separate Palestinian state resolution against 70 years of American foreign policy. So, and Lindsey Graham, by the way, was right. He said, okay, if he does that, if he goes around Congress and goes to the United Nations, we'll just cut off the funds for the United Nations. I would only hope the Republicans would have that kind of spine, but we'll see. But the point about Netanyahu is that he said, look, he didn't say never on a two-state solution. He said right now it's obvious that if we give radical Islam bases around us to attack Israel, that's what a two-state solution will mean.
Yeah, and I'm sure our president doesn't understand that. All right, when we come back, why is James Baker advising Jeb Bush? We'll talk about that, and we'll also talk about the Clinton Foundation and transparency. Don't go away. All right, folks, we're back with the Malzberg panel on this Friday edition, Heather Hansen and Roger Hedgecock. James Baker is reported to be a foreign policy advisor to Jeb Bush, Roger. Now, next to Zbigniew Brzezinski, Mika's daddy, I can't think of too many people that are more anti-Israel and might have problems even beyond that. Why on earth would Jeb Bush saddle himself? I know the Bush-Baker relationship from the first Bush president, HW, but why go back to the throwback and not pick somebody more current?
A Bush is a Bush is a Bush. What we're going to have in this situation with Baker, Baker is as close to Obama on this issue as he can get. He is reflexively anti-Israel. He hates Netanyahu. In fact, in the early 1990s, when he was Secretary of State, he banned Netanyahu from entering our State Department in Washington, D.C. So it's a pretty interesting picture that he admits, and Jeb Bush hasn't said otherwise, that he's now advising Jeb Bush. Yet another reason to say in 2016, no Bush.
I mean, he also is reportedly in a private conversation while George H.W. Bush was president, Heather said, F the Jews, which goes beyond Israel.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting that this is all coming sort of to light today. At the same time, Jeb Bush about an hour ago tweeted that Obama's treatment of Israel was misguided and disappointing. So maybe he is sort of sensing the backlash and trying to get ahead of it, but it definitely is not in his best interest to have people like this. And there's no reason for it. I mean, I think that he does need to create a foreign policy team that has some experience, and I think that that's good. But to also have some people who are a little bit younger with new ideas and to get rid of him might be a good idea.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to the Clinton Foundation. The story list, the chapters keep getting written of the scrutiny that this organization deserves, and that the Clintons, especially Hillary, since she's going to run, deserve. And the latest chapter would be that they have a health charity, which falls under the heading of the Clinton Foundation, and they stopped publishing their donor lists back in 2010, 1 year after Hillary became Secretary of State. Roger?
And promised that they wouldn't do it. But they promised and said in the hearing that she had, in confirmation hearing, that she would absolutely disclose all of this. She had an agreement with Barack Obama, and then went ahead and did not do it. Once again, you have to vet these people for president. If they're already telling us that whatever they tell us, we should automatically assume is a lie, this is not a great sign for being a good president.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and if you look at the list of individuals that have donated, there's a lot of problems there. So the fact that there are some people that they're keeping from us in one way or another just really, really raise a red flag.
Yeah. All right. Well, I've seen the red flags from the Clinton Foundation, that's for sure. Let's try to get one more in here. Congress subpoenaing, if that's the correct word, the emails of nearly a dozen Clinton State Department employees, but the committee has also today subpoenaed the server that would be handed over to a third person and all of Hillary's emails. Heather, is that going to happen?
You know, the breadth of a congressional subpoena is sort of unknown. I'm not positive that they're going to get their hands on that server. However, we have seen civil courts, the Citizens United case, they're actually making the State Department turn over some of Hillary's flight manifests. So if you see similar things with that AP case, I'm telling you, that's the way it's going to go. That AP case could really get some access to some of the stuff that we're looking for.
Roger?
What we do know about the subpoena, it does have a breadth to go to the aides and assistants and aides to aides, so that the people in the State Department who are actually the infrastructure for Secretary Clinton are going to have their emails examined by Trey Gowdy and his committee with regard to Benghazi, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you know, it's funny, Lanny Davis, right off the bat, he went out and he said a lot of things, including that Hillary would be amenable to handing the server over to an independent third party. And then at the press conference, she put an end to that kind of thing by saying, it's mine and it'll stay with me. So I don't know how this is going to all shake out, but for crying out loud, anybody else, there would be no shot in heck that they could even still be considered a candidate. But I thank both of you. Roger Hedgecock, we're at 72 degrees and sunny in beautiful San Diego, and Heather and I here in New York, where it's snowing on the last day of winter. But thank you both for joining us. Have a great weekend.
You too, Steve.
All right, folks, coming up next, you're going to want to see this. This is a Gimme 5, and it's all about and includes a lot of cuts from Obama's message to Iran. Don't miss it.